Now let's dive deep into the big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Glenn Weinzimmer, and let's queer up South Florida and Florida. What's behind Miami-Dade County's proposed 50% cut in cultural grant funding? In a move that has sparked outrage across Miami-Dade's creative community, a newly proposed county budget threatens to gut the region's thriving arts ecosystem. And LGBTQ artists and organizations could feel the brunt of the blow. Mayor Daniela Levine Cava's proposed 2025-2026 budget includes a staggering $12.8 million cut to cultural grant funding. That's more than a 50% slash, even more alarming. The proposal would merge the Department of Cultural Affairs into the Miami-Dade Public Library, you heard that right, and eliminate the department's director entirely. Arts leaders are calling this proposal a cultural catastrophe. The Actors Playhouse at the Miracle Theater is joining forces with the Miami-Dade Arts Action Alliance to fight back. The proposed cuts would dismantle decades of investment, gut small and mid-sized arts organizations, and erase thousands of artists' livelihoods, many of them LGBTQ. Arts activists argue that the arts are vital to community interest and not a luxury. Miami-Dade's arts scene generates over $2.1 billion with a B a year, supports 32,000 jobs, attracts millions of tourists, and returns $443 million in public revenue. Every county dollar invested brings in $42 more. The final decision happens September 18th, and at the last budget hearing. The announcement comes at a very difficult time for the LGBT community as we face opposition from state and federal grant funding sources in their fight against diversity. Florida has slashed millions of dollars in arts funding that have dramatically affected organizations like the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida and the Outshine Film Festival. There are more than 25 cultural and arts LGBTQ organizations that could be dramatically affected. Until then, allies and artists are urged to take action. Activists encourage you to email the mayor, call your commissioner, show up at the September 4th and 18th hearings, and most importantly, tell your story. The LGBTQ community knows if we lose our culture, we lose our voice. For more information, you can visit miamidade.gov and sign the petition today. This is pretty serious, not just because of the local cut, but then you look at the state cut. The state itself has cut, I think they proposed this year a $32 million for the arts. And last year they had proposed $23 million and the governor vetoed it. So there's a chance that even that on the state level will be cut on top of Miami-Dade going ahead and for what their, whatever reasons there are, they have money in there and they're letting it go. I know that Miami-Dade is having its own financial crisis, if you will, and is trying to save money. But this is not a place when you can see the revenue is, it's coming back at 400 plus per person.
$41 per dollar.
Per dollar, right.
Say, I wish my dollar was worth $41.
That's an investment we all could make.
Right.
So this is pretty critical for our community, and especially for a lot of the smaller organizations. When you look at what the state is doing, even if they allow the funding is limited to like 18 organizations, I can't remember which county, which do not support mostly LGBTQ smaller theaters. They're more major productions with restrictions. And we know what's happened in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center and all of that, we're under attack in every direction. So this is just a continuance of that, and we need to be vigilant.
Well, it sounds like Levine Calva is taking a page from the Trump handbook. Next thing you know, they're going to be naming an opera house after Casey DeSantis. I mean, I really hope the mayor's constituents remember this next time she's up for re-election.
Well, I think that's a little presumptive, but because Cava has always been very supportive of the gay community. However, I just think
what's changed?
Well, I think what's changed is the reality of the lack of tourism. I think the reality of the current Donald Trump administration. I think the current administration of DeSantis. I think that is all putting pressure. Now, the unfortunate thing is that I don't think it's an us and them battle. And everyone is taking it like that. From my perspective, I think what this is doing is this is forcing the nonprofits to sit there and start getting a little slap of reality. I mean, down here in South Florida, we have an arts community that is so vibrant that it's the envy of most other regions of the country. I think what we need to do now is we need to do an assessment saying who's being hurt the most and how can we come to the table and how can we all support each other. And I've been saying that from a gay perspective, but I'm thinking for a nonprofit's perspective in the theater, it's going to be that much more important. I'm not saying that there aren't attacks on the
Yes.
title LGBTQ. I agree 100%. But I think it's more of an issue that there's more going on than we know of, and it's not being discussed properly and
Right.
fairly. I think it's important that the community at large, not just the arts communities, bond, but I think the community at large is going to have to come back and say, no, we need to support this. And I'm just hoping, because I know how the nonprofits, I've got 20 plus years in nonprofit background. I think what's going to be shameful is that the nonprofits are like a high school social club where when everything is happy, we all love each other. But the minute somebody gets $1 more than me, then we start getting jealous and we do a little backstab.
Well, they're all going to be competing at the same time.
Right. Well, but that goes
And
back
they're
to
gonna be-
$41,
there's gonna be
right,
casualties.
to be fair.
There will
I
be
understand that, but
casualties.
I'm just saying my point is that I think the organizations need to come to the table, compare notes, and say, Gay Men's Choir, you and
the film festival.
the film festival, how can we work together so we can get better dollars for you? Do we do more projects together? Do we share the same venue on the same night? We got to quit competing against
More
each other.
collaboration.
Right. And that's an even larger story because all nonprofits, regardless whether it's the LGBT community, whether it's the arts community, they all seem to do a lot of infighting. And I have found that when they do sit down at the same table and they can realize that they're all working towards the same goal, they can accomplish a lot more.
And
you
that's my point.
Right. And so I agree with you.
And the nonprofit, even the health nonprofits all battle each other. And when they come together, like, oh, we are on the same table.
Right.
So I just think that this.
Well, you just said a mouthful, sister.
Well,
just saying. I mean, I mean that in the best way possible, because if everyone just came together,
and that's my
wouldn't
point.
this be a better world?
And I
so
agree
that's
with that.
essentially what you're saying, right?
And I agree, and I know
Right.
it's wishful thinking in a lot of
No,
ways,
it's
but
not.
I think
But
this
it's
is the first
love.
Can
step.
be done.
It's the first step so that we can start being more realistic.
Yeah.
You know?
And we
Yeah.
need a good leader in the community that's going to bring people together, that's going to be able to get them all at the same table, that's not a threat to anybody. And that person is the one that they need to coalesce the groups together and say, okay, we share this problem. How do we fundraise together to bring in more people to an event? How do we do testing in 3 places instead of 6 on the drive? We all have to hire somebody.
And how do we also introduce ourselves to those private families and those private foundations and those private donors that have the pocketbook, that maybe they can't write a check for $12 million, but they can write a check for $500,000.
Right.
We need to start.
Well, that's where you bring in our fund and things like that. So you bring in all these resources we have in our community, and you can probably solve the problem with the arts, because there's been a lot of money released in the last decade that didn't exist a decade ago.
Exactly.
I've been here 40 years and we didn't have any of these arts, and yet they're all being supported right now.
Right.
So if you have to go back to the basics and really be a grassroots nonprofit organization that's providing a service, you can do that if you come together.
Exactly.
And there's no reason not to, other than ego and...
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm nothing against your point about the politics, but I think you can't just assume it's always the negative politics crap. I mean, yes,
Right.
there are influences and there are different aspects of it.
And it's not making it easier when Tallahassee is cutting the amount of money it's cutting.
It's tough to not look,
Right.
directly through it. But-
Right.
Yeah.
But
Like they said at the orgy, come together.
Right. Well said, boys. Buddy, thank you for introducing that point of view into the conversation. I really appreciated it. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.